Okay, right, so, I don't know about you, I found that really helpful and thrilled, particularly then what you were saying. I was just saying to you just now, I've been saying some of this sort of stuff for quite some time, and now the stats are in to back it up. It's a really, really important message. I want to just take a moment to look at it from a kind of pastor's perspective, Susan's called it. And I want to do a bit of an odd thing. Some of you will be like, where on earth is he going with this? Well, just bear with me. I want to ask the question, what is an idol? What is an idol? Some of you got pop idols, sports idols. What is an idol? Oxford English Dictionary says an image or representation of a god used as an object of worship, or a person or thing that is greatly admired, loved, or revered. That's the Oxford English Dictionary of an idol. What is an idol in the Bible? I'm going to give you 5 examples of idols in the Bible. There's the golden calf in Exodus 32. Moses is up the mountain getting the 10 Commandments, and for some bizarre reason, the people make a golden calf idol. Then they start worshipping this thing. He comes down with the 10 Commandments, and they're like worshipping this golden idol they've made, saying, "Oh, this is the thing that rescued us out of Egypt. This is the thing that saved us," bowing down to this object they've just made. And it's so ironic because the 10 Commandments, the first 2 that Moses reads out is you shall have no God before me. Do not make for yourself an image to worship. Oh, the irony. That's one example. A second example, that you had the Baals and the Asherah, the poles and these images. These were idols. They were Canaanite gods, often sexually provocative images that ended up being worshipped by the people of Israel as well, under King Ahab and Queen Jezebel. You might have heard that name, Jezebel. And they encouraged people to do really unwise and unhealthy sexual stuff, to cut themselves. Self-harm was invented at that point, to cut themselves, and even to sacrifice their children. That's what those idols made them do. A third example, the bronze serpent in 2 Kings 18. And originally, this bronze serpent was a really helpful thing. And the people looked to this image for healing. God healed them through looking to this thing, coming to this lifted up object. And it was a very helpful thing. And then the tide turned, and it ended up becoming a very unhelpful thing. Ended up becoming an idol that people began to worship, and it was extremely unhelpful. Fourthly, there were the household gods in Genesis 31. You remember Joseph and his many-coloured coat? Stuart's now going to sing the rendition from the musical. Oh, no, we'll leave that. Time escapes. We'll do it at the end. But Joseph's mum, Rachel, there was a time when she nicked the household gods, the idols of her dad, Laban. And he chased after these things. He did not want to be left without his idols. They were so precious to him. He could not let go of his idols. The other thing we see there is, for some reason, even though those things had not really helped her dad, she kind of took on the idols that her parents had had. She took their idols for herself, even though she knew they weren't particularly useful, they hadn't particularly helped her parents. And then finally, there's idols of the heart described in the Bible. People set up their own idols that kind of take their heart's attention. They take their time, they take their energy, they take their money, and these things kind of replace God, but they steal people's time and attention and money and energy. So in summary, in the Bible, idols can be physical things, often sexually provocative images. They can be false gods or unhelpful religious systems. Sometimes they can be originally for good, but later misused. And they can affect people's internal lives. They can affect their priorities and their desires. And they're things that can be chased after when lost. There's a warning in the Bible that says, little children, keep yourselves from idols. 1 John 5:21 says, little children, keep yourselves from idols, these unhelpful things that you'll chase after that will actually damage you if you're not careful. What are the effects of idols in the Bible? 5 quick things. They cause separation from God and people, and also people and people. They contribute to people becoming lonely. Damaged relationships from people chasing after idols. Second thing we see in the Bible is they lead to spiritual blindness and moral decay in society. You see that right throughout when these people follow idols in the Bible. They reject truth, age-old truth, and they start believing lies. Even the crazy lies, they start believing lies. And it leads to sexual foolishness and sexual dangers, particularly even child sacrifice, people literally killing their children. You see that in these situations in the Bible when people chase after their idols. A third effect of idols is God's judgment and discipline. God kind of says, guys, this is really messing you up. Stop going this way. There's a better way. Turn back to me. Stop chasing after these things that are messing your lives up. There is a better way. Fourthly, we see a consequence of people chasing after idols in the Bible is they end up losing their freedom and they become like slaves. They become addicted to their idols. Even though they know these things are not helping them, they cannot stop chasing after the idols. The idols promise happiness, but they lead to people being enslaved by these things. Modern examples, people's addiction to wealth or power or image ends up controlling people. And a fifth thing we see when people chase after idols in the Bible is it leads to people feeling empty and lacking a sense of purpose in their lives. Idols can't speak or save or love, but these things, these objects take on a kind of power, it seems, but worshipping them or chasing after them leaves people empty. There's a bit in Jeremiah 10:5 that says, like a scarecrow in a cucumber field, their idols cannot speak. They must be carried around. They cannot walk. Why are you chasing after these idols? They're just things, like a scarecrow in a cucumber field. I love that phrase. Pretty cool. Or Psalm 115:8 says, those who make these idols will become like them. They'll be lifeless. So all who trust in them. So these objects that people end up worshipping, they take all their time and attention, people end up becoming like them. In summary, idols in the Bible, they cause people to be lonely. If we can put that chart up again, lovely that you mentioned that. What I want to mention on that chart is that, can you see the research stops around 2020? Can you see where that's going? As a mathematician, I'm looking at that and going, okay, by now, 2024, 2025, this thing is right down. Maybe it's leveled off slightly, but this thing is right down across every single age group. Even you more mature people, because you're spending time online, you have less friends. But the loneliest age group is the youngest people who should have the most friends. They're the loneliest. So I dread to think where that's headed now, where it is now. Because the data only shows from years ago. Where's that now? Loneliness, moral decay, people feeling distant from God, distant from life, distant from their friends, a lack of freedom, addiction, escapism, emptiness, lack of purpose. Those are the biblical examples. So I simply want to ask us the question, do you think for some people, mobile phones could be classed as a modern day idol? I'm just asking us the question. I'm not saying they are. I'm just saying, what do you think? I put into AI that question. Okay, some of you are like, why did you do that? I was just interested. I put into AI. I asked my computer to scour the internet, can do, look at millions of things in fractions of seconds. And I asked it that question. And it came back with a table. And it said that the signs that mobile phones have become an idol are when they take your attention first before other things. They steal your attention before your family time and if you're a Christian, your time with doing Christian things or whatever your hobbies are. They steal your attention first. Or when they control your emotions, when your mood rises or falls based on notifications, likes, or messages. When it consumes your time. If you spend hours scrolling, but you have no time to do important things. When they shape your identity and you find your worth in how people respond to your posts. You were saying just now about a child who, and children who ask questions, well, how do I look? And if people don't respond in the way they want, it kind of totally affects their mood and how they feel about themselves, get a downer on themselves. If it replaces real relationships, people connect more online than they do with real people. A lad in New Milton recently spent so long in his room without going out, he came out with an American accent. There are people I've met who've only recently just come out of their rooms. They've been locked away in their rooms for months and months and months. They cannot go out. Because as Gareth Southgate put it, they're chasing after gaming, gambling, and pornography. And they just can't go out anymore. I've spoken to parents who have said, I've given up trying to get my child out the room. I just take the food to them now. At least then they can eat in their room. I know parents who cover your ears, who say, I don't want the fines from school, so I'm going to say I'm home educating. Now, a shout out to people who home educate well, doing an amazing job. But there are some people now saying they're home educating when they're not, because they can't get their teenager out of the room. Another thing AI said, if people are avoiding real life and living in some sort of fantasy world, that was a scouring of the internet. Thank you, AI, for doing that. But I looked at that and thought, that kind of makes a bit of a case. Maybe for some people, mobile phones have become a bit of an idol.